All right, Mr. Chair, we're live on YouTube.
Okay, good morning. Due to COVID-19, Committee of Adjustment public hearings are being conducted virtually by electronic means through WebEx Webinar, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. Participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx Webinar, which is moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All participants will automatically be muted on entry, and when your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We also ask that you mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time, and at all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Members of the public and applicants are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that apply to the property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever properties to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body, in the event of an appeal, will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee rendered here today, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government recently amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. As of November 28, 2022, only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies, as those terms are defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. The hearing procedure is as follows. I will call each item in the order listed in the agenda. We go in order in the virtual world. Before first dealing with deferral items, in making your submissions where an application is uncontested, and by uncontested, I just mean not that there's no opposition from city departments or area neighbors, but there's no one present here today to make deputation, then the application, the agent or application, applicant or its agent is permitted to proceed with their presentation, but only if they desire. Otherwise, the committee will see if they have any questions for the applicant, and where there's no presentation required, the applicants are to advise should they wish to address the committee. The committee may ask questions and then take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker on a contested matter or not, each speaker, including the applicant or agent, is given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and the clock is up in the room, and we will comment when you're approaching 5 minutes and ask you to wrap up. When addressing the committee, please start off by clearly stating your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks also to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent goes first and makes their presentation to the committee of the application. Please note the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals made at the hearing today. the committee may decide to defer the application if being substantially revised in order to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application have been informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they finish their presentations. And when all other speakers have finished, the applicant or agent was given an opportunity, another 5 minutes, to rebut only those issues and answer questions that were raised by the speakers, but not to introduce new information at that time. That will then mark the end of the discussion, and the application is then taken into the committee for a decision. Some housekeeping matters to take care of before we get started. Firstly, I guess the approval of the minutes of the last hearing. What, Madam Secretary Treasurer, the date of that hearing was March 23rd. Okay, can I have a motion to approve those minutes, please?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. Seconder for that.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Reddick. All in favor? Minutes are approved. Madam Secretary Treasurer, are there any files to be closed today?
None today.
Okay, are there any declarations of interest of panel or staff on the items before us this morning? Any to declare, Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm in the circulation zone for the public notice on number 4, 7 Bromley Crescent.
Okay. Mark that you have a conflict and the nature of that conflict, and you will not participate in that matter. Any others? Okay, in that case, I guess we're move on to the referrals. It looks from the community planning memo, it looks like the first and the last item of this morning's session are the two that are slated for deferral, being flagged according to the memo. And it looks like in both cases the applicant is in favor, but we'll call those up. So I guess if there's nothing else to deal with, we can move over to the first item. Second. And the first item is 20 KENORA Crescent, again on the deferral memo. It's an application to construct a 2-story rear addition, a new front porch, and there were 3 variances, and it's D4, which says it's in order for a revised public notice to be issued to address revisions to the proposal and or modified variances. And speaker on this, we have 2 speakers registered this morning. Bruno Lopez, the agent for the applicant, as well as a neighbor at 25 Failsworth. We'll just check in with that neighbor as well.
Mr. Chair, members, the area resident is present on the call at this time.
Thank you, Adam. Okay, so Mr. Lopez.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Bruno Lopez from MXL Engineering, located at 1649 St. Clair Avenue West.
Okay, so it looks like we have an order to comply on this matter. So I don't know, is this already built?
No, Mr. Chair, actually the order to comply, it's something that should be actually outside the committee, and I had discussions with staff from the city. Actually, this should never be an order in fact, because this was an existing retaining wall that was faulty, and the homeowner just rebuilt it, but because there was a call from some neighbor and
yeah, okay. So it's
long story short is the reason why we would like to defer, and I believe we did the drawings based on an old plan of survey, and we have recently completed a brand new survey which actually shows the numbers slightly different, and we have to make that adjustment.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, any questions for Mr. Lopez, panel members? And if not, let's weigh in with neighbor Renee Elizabeth. And I think we have a letter up on the board from Arlindo Vieira at 22, but I believe that's the neighbor here. The neighbor here is from 25 Failsworth. Okay. So there we have a letter dealing with that. Yeah. Okay, so is Renee Elizabeth on the line?
Yes, I am.
Good morning.
Good morning. Brother, I didn't understand good over here. They said two-story on the rear addition and a new front porch.
Sir, just want to let you know, we're not going to be dealing with this matter on the merits here this morning. The applicant, as you may have heard, is going to be deferring in order to have the matter recirculated. The variances may change slightly because it was based on an old survey, and now they're going to do it as compared to the new survey. So they can't proceed this morning. So we're not going to hear any comments from you on the merits today. Just weighing in with you on as a courtesy, just to let you know the matter is being deferred and see if you have any comments only with respect to deferral, but not on the merits or the substantive nature on this application. It will be brought back on and you will be re-notified.
Okay.
Okay, so you're okay with this matter being deferred, and you will be re-notified. Hopefully sooner than later. Mr. Lopez will bring this matter back. Perfect the matter, and then the matter will be recirculated based on the new variances.
What can I say? People that complain that we didn't bother nobody, but it's still. So
you'll be back here again. We'll be re-notifying you, and this matter will come back again.
Okay then.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, members, any questions for the applicant, or can I have a motion to defer, please?
I'm ready to make a motion, but I would like to ask the applicant whether he has seen the letter from the neighbor at 22 KENORA or not, and has he had a chance to read it?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, I'm not aware. I was on today's, I was at the city website with the application details, and that letter seems not to be posted.
Okay, well, it was sent to us in our additional materials yesterday, so if you have a chance, I would strongly recommend that you read it and digest it. But I am happy to make a motion for deferral unless someone else has any questions. Nope, okay. Motion to defer the application until the next available meeting.
Okay, seconder for that motion. Mr. Taylor, thank you. All in favor? Okay, the matter is deferred. Mr. Lopez, we'll see you back here again. Mr. Elizabeth, we'll see you as well. If you still have concerns, we'll see you at that time. Okay, thank you. The next applicant, the only other matter is the last application, item number 1935 King George's Road. That was for a detached dwelling, an attached garage, and a new pool cabana in the rear yard. And we have a deferral request from the applicant as what's item D2. So I think a staff one as well. Urban Forestry was looking for condition 2 and a refusal. And there were 7 variances. And we have a revised agenda because there was a reference to the wrong bylaw on variance number 7. Mr. Eagleman, I believe, is the speaker on this.
It's actually Addison Milne Price.
Okay. Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and fellow committee members. As I said, Addison Milne Price, planner at Design Plan Services of 900 The Small Suite 300.
Okay, so just briefly, the nature and the reason for the deferral.
Thank you. Yes, a deferral will allow us to have more time to consult with planning staff with respect to some concerns they've identified with the proposal. Through these discussions, we hope to update the plans and obtain a new zoning notice.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions for Addison Milne Price, the agent, members? Okay, if no questions, can I have a motion to defer? You're only one speaker on this application. Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll move for deferral to enable consultation with the planning department and potential changes to the variances.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that.
I'm happy to second that.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? The matter is deferred. We'll see you back here again. Okay, so in that case, we can scroll over to the first item to hear on the merits today. Item number 2, 93 ALLANHURST. And this is an application to construct a new covered rear yard patio, and there is only one variance, the coverage. On this application, we have cover letter, 2 supporting materials, lot coverage variance approvals, precedents for that, and 1 letter of support, or actually 2 letters of support. It said 1, but there were 2 from 95 and 97. And the speaker is Angela Nicole Walker.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Chairman and committee members. We are just trying to put we already have a cement cover that we're going to be putting new cement down, but this request is because of variance with the lot coverage of the patio cover itself. So the max is at 33, but we're at 36.5. I've supported, I've also attached within my documentation to my file various other applicants who have been approved in the past within recent year or this year, requesting the same with their variances are a little higher than ours. So we're not going to be intruding in any neighbors' viewpoints. I've submitted also pictures showing our is completely covered with a lot of trees that are going from 16 to 20 feet above. So, and everyone else is below us, so we don't have any visual impacts whatsoever. This is actually used for, I have a disability and I have a lot of pain, so we're putting a new hot tub, therapeutic hot tub in it. So I'd like to use it throughout the full entire year. This coverage will allow me to do that, to enable me to be using it regardless of the weather.
Right. So the reason is you're here before us is because of the covering that section. It counts as coverage. There's
Correct.
also a pool. The pool obviously will not be covered. It's not like you're covering the whole lot. It's just where the hot tub is.
Yeah.
Okay, and thank you for that presentation and for providing us with precedents where coverage, and in that case, it might actually be coverage for the actual dwelling built form rather than just the pool cover here. So let's see, did members have any questions for the homeowner, or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
Can I mention one thing?
Sure.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. I just noticed yesterday, because I've been very diligent to make sure I did my part and to be thorough. And yesterday I went in and I noticed that there's something from the urban forestry, and even my architect was kind of stumped because the trees that there might be potential impact, not because we're touching them, only because we're going to be hoarding them and being well away. We have lots of space between ourselves and where we're going to be doing, but we're still going to hoard them. They're saying that there's an impact. Obviously, we will comply and make sure we satisfy any requirements with their urban forestry. But my architect said, that's something I mentioned today, that the trees, especially the one in the back, we have 17 feet from the base of the tree to the side of the house, and we're only going out 5 feet, and the hoarding needs 8 feet max. I think less than 8, but we'll do it at 8. So we have lots of space in between. So we're not sure as to why we're on that list. Because if it was, I would have obviously been very, very proactive, and I wouldn't even be on this list and just figure out what I need to do. But we are well within the distances, and also the driveway is going to be.
Ma'am, sorry. I think you've gone on enough on that. Don't worry about that. They've only asked for condition 2, which means permission to injure or remove a private tree.
But we're not.
If there is no, you're going to be protecting that tree. You have no intention of wanting to remove that tree.
Yeah.
So I forgot to mention that at the outset, that they were looking for condition number 2.
Yeah, so I'm kind of confused. If you can explain to me what that means, because I don't understand.
Okay, it's just they often make first of all, sometimes they recommend refusal because it has to be only the impact of the addition that affects the tree. So your addition being a covered porch, it's not like you're going underground and affecting the roots.
Oh,
so
no.
I wouldn't worry about it. Really doesn't apply to your situation, but they often comment that way.
Okay.
Okay, we'll see if neighbors, if any of the members have any questions about that, I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Not a problem. Okay, members, any comments, or is someone ready for a motion? Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I see this as a very minor variance. It meets the other tests of the Planning Act as well. I would move approval subject to urban forestry, and not included in my motion, but just a comment basically echoing your sentiments, Mr. Chair, that the applicant should consult with urban forestry on the applicability and implications of that condition.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that motion. Seconded for Mr. Taylor's motion, Ms. McCluskey. Thank you. All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. You have your approval. Enjoy your hot dog. Ms. Walker, you have your approval. Okay, our next application is item number 321 Batavia Avenue. It's an application to construct a 2-story addition above the existing dwelling and a 3-story rear addition for a total of 4 dwelling units to be provided. And the one variance we have is that a dwelling unit is permitted in a fourplex at the zone label on the zoning bylaw map does not include a U value or have a numerical value of 4 or greater following the letter U in the zoning label. The zoning label here has a U value of 2. So we take it that that's reference that numerical value is the number of units. So in this zone label, it looks like there's permitted 2 dwelling units and the applicant here is looking for 4. We have several speakers on this application. First of all, that is the only variance. We have a cover letter from the agent, Paul Cronus at Weir Folds. We have supporting material. We have Metrolink's advisory comment. We have nothing from planning. And we have the speakers, Paul Cronus, as well as we have 4 area residents registered to speak. And I believe that sort of rings a bell. I think we've had this similar variance also with the same agent. So perhaps Mr. Cronus's presentation can remind us about where those other applications and what happened for those. Mr. Cronus, welcome.
Yeah, again, my name's Paul Cronus. I'm a land use planner with the offices of Weir Folds and Toronto law firm. The address is 66 Wellington Street West, Suite 4100, Toronto, M5K1B7. Yes, Mr. Chairman, you're correctly pointed out that your committee has dealt with 2 other applications, one at 12 Batavia and about a year ago, and the other one at 50 Castleton, approximately maybe 4 to 6 weeks ago. In both those instances, your committee has supported the variances. And as you understand, this is consistent with the city's EHON initiative to provide more housing in the city of Toronto. And this variance is, as you correctly pointed out, is a variance to the numerical value U. The built form of fourplex is permitted in the zone, but it's limited to 2. And subject to your approval, we'd like to seek to increase that to 4, consistent with the other approvals that you have given. I have, checked the AIC, the application information portal, consistently. I was not aware of any letters of opposition. So I'd be interested to hear what the residents have to say. There was some opposition at 12 Batavia about a year ago. There was no opposition at 50 Castleton. As I described in great detail in the covering letter, the reasons and the purpose of the application and how it meets all the different initiatives that are continuing to be amended by the province and the city of Toronto. We have no opposition to the condition from forestry and from Metrolink. As I said, all the other zoning provisions in the zoning bylaw, sir, and Mr. Chairman and members, can be met. That's density, setbacks, height, landscape requirements. They all can be met. I should also say that there is a laneway suite in the back that's being constructed, which is the as a right laneway suite, and it's not part of the application, but it is on the subject property. And I thought I should mention that. It is mentioned in the letter. All the units, as you can see, are of a decent size for living accommodations. And I submit, I'm not going to repeat myself, the letter, I think, describes everything. I submit that the application for the change in the U value from 2 to 4 meets all the requirements of the Planning Act and all the 4 tests. And I would hope that you find in favor of the application. And of course, I'll listen to the 4 individuals that have registered to speak to the initiative, and I'd be pleased to respond to any questions they have or your committee may have.
Okay, Thank you, Mr. Cronus. I have one question. So, on the other matters, there was also to 4 units, right? It was also the number 4 as the number, correct? They were 4.
Correct, Mr. Chairman. And the on 50 Castleton, there was no opposition from the planning department.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no opposition. I was going to mention there's no opposition from the planning department to this application. And my question for you, if it was, the permission now to have 3 units, would you still have to be here if the number you were seeking was 3, or you'd still have to come here?
Yes, sorry, Mr. Chairman, I missed a question because there was a little interruption, and I apologize if I interrupted you. Anything over 2 would require approval of the committee.
Correct. So even if you were at 3, even though with a new, you still have to come here. And the city, like you said, the city is not opposed coming in with any opposition to this. So any questions for Mr. Cronus before we hear from the neighbors? Okay. So we have 3 neighbors, they're the neighbors. We'll go in order on my list. 27 Batavia, 24 Mould, 34 Batavia, and 23 Batavia right next door. So first speaker is Pamela Tiley at 27 Batavia.
As you mentioned.
Can you start off, ma'am? State your name and address, please.
My name is Pamela Tiley, and I live at 27 Batavia.
Thank
you. And you were correct in mentioning that there was quite a bit of opposition to number 12 Batavia by the same developer. And we had a survey, a petition of 64 people that really disapproved of, not only the property, but the fact that it didn't, people were just very concerned that developers were moving into the area, that this particular developer purchased 2 properties, but that the number 12 had already been built. So fortunately, Mr. Cronus, you learned from the last situation that don't start the construction until you have the variance approval. So my question is that will the building look exactly like the one at number 12?
Okay, ma'am, you have to make your submissions and then he answers at the end. It's not like a back and forth.
So that's my first question.
Okay.
And my second question has to do with the urban forestry application. So it's a number 1 condition, which means that they're going to be taking down a city tree that is full grown. I mean, it's beautiful. And I'm just very concerned about the fact that we're kind of resigned to the fact that you're going to approve this because you approved the one at number 12 without the 2 dwellings for a laneway suite. So now they've also, Mr. Cronus has learned that they're only going to be building 1 laneway suite. But I want to know why do they have to take the tree down?
Sorry.
And what about the tree?
We just lost you for a second.
And what about the tree in the back? There's another full-grown tree. So my question is that we look at the possibility of leaving a full-grown tree on the property. Do you hear? Can you hear me?
For the last minute or so, you've been cutting in and out. So you're concerned with the urban forestry has asked for condition 1, which is permission to injure or remove a city tree. For just comments, if they could keep the tree on the property and not have it removed. We were referring to the tree at the front, the city tree.
Yes. Yes, because there's no application for the one at the back, so I'm assuming that one will stay.
We'll hear from Mr. Cronus. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, yes, I don't want to talk about the merits because we expressed it last time and it went nowhere. So, we assume that the 4 units in the front building and the 1 laneway suite will probably pass because we had 64 people last time and didn't help at all. We're just hoping that this developer doesn't purchase any other homes on the street. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions for Ms. Tiley before we move on to the next speaker? Okay, next speaker is Willio Morrow at 24 Mould.
Mr. Chair and members, there is no one for 24 Mould Ave on the line, or at the very least, no one has called in on the number submitted. Thank you.
Okay, so next speaker on my list is Linda Crowboth at 34 Batavia.
Mr. Chair and members, Linda is present on the call. What we're going to try and do first, though, is see if we can go via WebEx and try and have her be on screen as she's requested. And if that doesn't work, we'll have her on the phone. So, Linda, I'm going to go ahead and move you to a panelist now, and you can give it a shot and see if you you can start your video and just say hey and see if this will work. Linda, go ahead. Okay, Linda, I can't hear you on the WebEx. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and mute you and I'll go and activate your phone. So just bear with me one moment. Okay, Linda, you should be unmuted on the phone now and it should be okay.
Okay, let's do a check. Can everyone hear?
Yep, thank you.
Loud and clear.
Okay, I can see you on screen all nodding, so I'll just go ahead then.
Yeah.
My name is Linda Crowboth. I'm at 34 Batavia, and my concerns are similar to those of Pamela, who just spoke. Now, the reason we're calling in is because it's a situation of once bitten, twice shy. With the property at 12 Batavia, the developer tried to sneak a second unit in the laneway, and this is what we primarily objected to. And it wasn't very clear. It was kind of underhanded as far as we're concerned, and we just don't want to see the same sort of thing happen with the development that is at 21. When I went through the property or the materials regarding the property, it noted 12 Batavia, or pardon me, 21 Batavia as a bungalow, a single floor bungalow, and it is not. It is a 1.5. And on the actual plans itself, they say that they want to build 2 stories above. Is that 2 stories above the 1.5 to make it higher, or is that going to be 3 stories, taking the half out and making that a second floor? This is also the concern is if they go beyond the 3 or 3.5, does that give them the right to go the same height on the laneway suite? Because originally at 12 Batavia Avenue, they were trying to put a second unit in. And my worry with this unit development is that if they have 1 laneway suite in the back, are they going to say, well, we've got a 4-story in the front, we're allowed to put a 3-story in the back? And that's that one concern. Second, that Mr. Cronus can certainly answer, is the types of materials that are on the building. Number 12 Batavia right now, if you can envision it, is like a matchbox turned on its side. It's like a human silo. It's just this big black impediment that's on the street. Now, for the people living in the unit, they don't have to see that house. But for us living outside of it, we see it. The 2 sides are complete solid black walls. And the same goes for the laneway suites. I would ask a recommendation for this build at 21 that perhaps they can consider a lighter material on the outside so that it's not such a like a missing tooth out of a set of teeth. This black void right in the middle of all these other homes that are very pretty. The other concern with that is having the solid black all the time radiates heat like crazy. Because we face north-northeast, the sun will hit that side of the building for 8 hours a day and emit the heat of both the midday sun and the late afternoon sun. Now, this may be fine for the people inside. They'll be protected because they do have that kind of material that, you know, does work well. But for the outlying houses, it's going to be really hot because it'll radiate like crazy. On that note as well, I follow with what Pamela says, keep the trees, because we're going to need some of that heat diversion with some of the shade the trees can provide, and it's good for the environment. And plus, you know, there's very little green space already in this development. You might as well keep what you have. The last point I have is that I did a count on our street, and currently we have 48 single-family homes. We have now 27 units that are included in sort of a multiplex development, which means altogether we have 27 rental units, individual rental units within a single house lot already. So right now we're looking at a total of 80 residences, single residences on this street, of which 48 are single-family homes. 27 of them already have existing units. And with talking to the neighbors, we have a proposal for 5 to 8 new laneway suites as well. This is just going to increase the density of people on the street. It'll be up to, if we're counting one person per unit, we're already up to 112 residents. If there's 2 people in these units, we're up to 166. And I know that these homes are supposed to be there for people to get a start at housing, but what if all these people have cars as well? You can't say, no, you can't rent here because you don't have a car. There's going to be a massive amount of vehicles on the street as well. So what I would like to say is, since this developer has already gotten 2 properties on the street.
You can also please wrap up, ma'am, because you're at 5 minutes.
Okay, now this is my last point. Since the developer has already gone and got 2 units, I just want to stop the amount of units being built because we're already at capacity. I mean, I like to be in a neighborhood where I can still walk around and not bump into people every 5 seconds. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Crobo. Any questions for the speaker before we move on to the final speaker? Okay, and the final speaker is Marco Reverso at 23 Batavia, right next door.
Mr. Chair, members, during the microphone check, I microphone checked a user that came in on just the name Marco, and in reality, what are the chances we have 2 Marcos today? And I didn't get a last name, so I'd like to double check with this Marco to confirm it's not the area resident, but the agent on a file. Marco, you're unmuted. Can I confirm your last name, please? The user who's logged in is simply as Marco. Can you identify yourself, please? I see him. Marco? Okay. Mr. Chair, I think that the Marco on the list might be the agent for later on in the afternoon and not the actual.
Marco Vieira. Well, I don't know if he'd be here if he's here this afternoon, but.
That's what I'm leaning to, Mr. Chair. Marco Vieira for item number 15 is who I think it is. And I don't, so as such, I do not think that the Marco at 23 Batavia is on the call at this time. And they did not provide us a phone number in case they are a call-in user.
Okay, in any event, we've heard from 2 other neighbors. This is a neighbor right next door, but if he's not here, he's not here. I see that we didn't on our list. You don't have a phone number for him. You just had an email.
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think members, we can, you agree, we can move on and go back to Mr. Cronus to answer the questions that we've already heard from the other neighbors. Okay. Okay, Mr. Cronus, I take it you've been listening to the comments from the various neighbors, and floor is now yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. As part of the Committee of Adjustment process at 12 Batavia, we asked for a deferral when it initially came up for the purposes of consulting with the neighborhood. And we had a very extensive consultation process, invited everyone on Mold and others on Castleton. And we took it upon ourselves to educate the area residents of all the changes that are happening at the City of Toronto, including the initiative called the Expanding Housing Options in Neighborhood, which I know that you're very familiar with. One of the challenges, as we all know and hear in the press, is that there's a significant housing crisis, and we can't, or at least this developer can't solve it, but he's contributing to the solution. And I think you hear this consistently in many of the presentations involving multi-units. You heard it at 12 Batavia, you heard it at 50 Castleton, and you're hearing it again today. Even as we speak, the ink hasn't dried yet on the last set of Planning Act changes that occurred last week, Thursday. Again, advancing the initiatives of the province and the City of Toronto is moving forward with the EHON, not at a rapid pace, but they're moving forward. There is an issue of an election coming up, which I think is deferring some of the considerations, but nevertheless, you're very familiar with it. Now, I didn't come prepared to relitigate what we heard at 12 Batavia, but I can say the criticism is that we constructed without a permit. I've indicated at the 12 Batavia presentation, and I will indicate again, that was done with a valid building permit. The advantage of this type of build form, sir, is it looks the same, whether it's a single detached, a 2-unit, 3-unit, or 4-unit. The appearance is the same. The only difference is the inside composition changes. The exterior shell does. So this developer, in order to keep the project going, took a risk. And it was his calculated risk that he could build the shell, but not outfit the inside until your approval. I explained that at the community consultation meeting. I explained that extensively with Miss Tiley, because I've had offline discussion with her as well, and it continues to come up as a criticism, which is unfortunate. But I wanted to again restate for the record, it was done all in accordance with the building permit. The issue of the tree, sir, it's a request to injure or remove tree. Of course, we're not insensitive to the trees, and we do our best to preserve them to the extent possible. If this could be done, and urban forestry can work with us, then we will do our best. But I don't know. I can't sit here today and promise you that that tree will be protected, because it is a recommendation of urban forestry to seek a permit to injure tree. Now, injure doesn't mean remove. It may mean that some elements may have to be removed or injured in order to both of the initiatives, but that's a separate process that will evolve over time, and it's through a permit process. Now, in terms of the preference of the colors, whether it's a light color or dark color, one of the interests of this developer has that I've experienced in my years is he's very much into the energy efficiency homes. He provides all the elements for modern comfort and as well to reduce his carbon footprint. And I don't know, and I can't tell you, I can't answer that question, whether a light color finish is preferable over a dark color finish.
Anyway, that's not something that we're before us. We're not the design police, so you can move on from that issue.
Okay. In terms of the amount of units that are happening on the street, I think it's going to happen in all areas of the city where there are laneway suites. It's not just a targeted area of this particular ward or this particular street. As these laneway suites continue to become more needed and necessary, this evolution will happen over time. The missing middle is not meant to be implemented overnight. It's a transition towards more, and sidewalks, in my humble opinion as a planner, are amply big enough to support the kind of walking density to close proximity of transit. There is no variance to height. It's a 3-story. It meets the height limit. And I also should say that the height limit for laneway suite is 6.3 meters. So it is not the same as the main building. Like I said, I'd be repeating myself. There is no height limit density. There is no limit of 2 stories. 3 stories fully complies with the height. I hope I answered all the questions, but if I missed anything, I'm sure you'll let me know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cronus. And my only comment, and is, first of all, kudos to your client of, there's no other variances here. I don't know if the other one, I don't believe there was either. It's just this.
None of them, sir. This is, yeah.
It's just the numeric value. So they're not, usually you figure if someone's going to come in at the same time, they're going to want to make it bigger and higher and wider, and you'd have variances all over the place, at least one or two substantive ones in terms of the size, but there's nothing here. And it was, you've said, it is a separate application for the laneway suite is a separate application. I think one of the neighbors had a question about that. So, and the other thing is, looking at your letter, these are not undersized units. It's not like these are generous. So in terms of meeting the EHON objectives, you don't have any built form variances. You don't have, and you're not undersized units. They're quite generous, which is, I think, along with the EHON, they don't want to see a bunch of bachelor apartments. So you're providing good sized, compared to the condo size, suite sizes today. So that's just my comment. Any questions from area other, and the planning department has no issue here, which they would, I don't believe they did with the other ones as well. So any questions, members, or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion? Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I agree with everything you said. We deal with the built form principally, and there are no implications on built form here. The renovations are being built entirely within what's permitted in the zoning bylaw. We're only talking about the number of units, but again, the structure is going to be in accordance with zoning. There were some comments made about trees. We've got our urban forestry department who's already made a condition of approval on that, which I will include in my motion. As you said, Mr. Chair, we don't deal with design, color of buildings, etc. There were some concerns expressed about traffic. We didn't hear anything from the planning department or the transportation department on that. So I'm satisfied that this variance meets the 4 tests, and I move approval subject to urban forestry condition 1.
Thank you, sir. Second.
Mr. Chair, I believe there was a Metrolink. Is there a Metrolink condition
That's
there as well?
We don't usually just say it's advisory, but Metrolink.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm happy to second that motion.
Okay, all in favor? We have unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Cronus, and thank you to the neighbors for your participation as well. The next application is item number 4, 7 Bromley Crescent. Mr. Taylor has a conflict, not participate. This is for a new detached dwelling with an attached garage and a new shed in the rear yard. There are 4 variances. Urban Forestry is looking for conditions 2 and 3. And all we have on this matter is a arborist report. The speaker is Frank Greco, owner of the property.
Members.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, my name is Frank Greco, 42 Orchard Crescent. My application is pretty straightforward. All the variances I'm asking for are minor in nature. I would just like to go to questions and answers if possible.
Okay, fair enough. You're right. It's very straightforward. No comments from neighbors or from city departments. I take it your urban forestry 2 and 3. That's part of the information. So, members, any questions for Mr. Greco, or is someone ready for a motion?
If no one has, go ahead. Go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. Yeah, if there's no questions, I assume not. Then I'm willing to make a motion to approve the application. Believe it meets the 4 tests, very minor in nature, and subject to urban forestry conditions 2 and 3.
Okay, thank you.
I'm happy to second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. You have your approval. Okay. Mr. Taylor can return now. Item number 5 is our next application. And it is 64 Florence Crescent. It's an application for a detached garage in the rear yard with 7 variances. We have the plans, we have support from 11 Bernice Court, and 3 other letters of support from 50, 41, and 45 Florence. And we have the Metrolinx advisory. The speaker on this application is Austin Emino, the agent for the applicant.
Yes. Hello, my name is Austin of 82 Formosa Drive in Richmond Hill, and I'm the designer and agent for the homeowners of 64 Florence Crescent.
Okay, we have nothing from city departments, or we have support from area residents. So I don't believe we need a presentation. Do you want to advise the committee of anything, Mr. Emino, or can we just see if members have any questions for you?
No, I don't have anything to add.
Okay, members, any questions, or is someone ready for a motion? Mr. Taylor?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm satisfied that the variances requested meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval without conditions.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that. Ms. McCluskey, thank you. All in favor? I take it it's unanimous. Okay, you have your approval. Thank you, Mr. Emino. Okay. Okay, so we're moving on to item number 6, 265 Falstaff. And hold on a second. Okay, we have, this is an application for a detached dwelling with an attached garage. We have 2 variances, an arborist report, and transportation has advised there's no objection. Urban forestry conditions 2 and 3. And the speaker is Enzo Locasano. Welcome, Mr. Locasano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members.
Okay, very straightforward application.
Correct.
Nothing really, no comments other than transportation. We're fine. Nothing from planning. You're okay with the urban forestry conditions?
Yes.
Let's see if members have any questions for you, Mr. Locasano. Members?
If no one has any questions, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay.
I believe this application meets the 4 tests under the Planning Act, is minor in nature and desirable, and I move for approval subject to urban forestry conditions number 2 and 3.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. Seconder for that. Ms. McCluskey, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Locasano. We'll see you again. Be well.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Okay, item number 7 is 149 Cameron Avenue. It's an application for a 2nd-story addition above the existing dwelling, a new front, rear, and front porch, and a new detached garage. We have a cover letter, enclosing a site plan and landscape, and showing the permeable pavers. I'm having trouble reading my own writing. And we have as well plans including a rendering. The speaker on this is again Mr. Lopez. Mr. Lopez?
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Chair. My name is Bruno Lopez from MXL Engineering, 1649 St. Clair Avenue West.
Okay, welcome back. Yeah, we have your plans, your cover letter rather. We don't have anything else or anyone here on this application, so we don't need a presentation. Members, any questions for Mr. Lopez, or is someone ready for a motion? Or Mr. Lopez, is there anything you'd like to advise the members of before we do that?
Yeah, I would just like to outline that we work closely with planning, and we did a minor change, and that's why you have a new site plan. We did a minor change to the rear of the laneway, and we proposed permeable pavers just to somehow work with planning to compensate for the lack of 10% of soft landscaping.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Lopez? And if not, is someone ready for a motion? Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I believe the variances meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval without conditions.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that? Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Okay, another unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Okay, the next application is 43 Highgate Road. It's an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. We have 2 sets of yellow highlighted changes. The first looks like was March 20th, and again, it was revised on April the 4th. So the newest one is the one on the top of our package. It looks like there were, anyway, 6 variances. There are now 4, and all of them have been revised, all of those 4. So we have the 2 sets of revisions, we have the plans, we have a cover letter regarding those revisions. We have 5 letters of support and the Metrolinx advisory. And the speaker is Mr. Joe Dome. Mr. Dome, welcome.
Yes, my name is Joe Dome, 133 Torresdale Avenue, agent for the owners.
Okay, so first of all, I'm correct. We have 2 sets of revisions here. Why don't you, Mark, walk us through how that happened? On the first one, you eliminated, you made us some changes, and then you made some further changes.
Yeah, so the latest zoning notice has actually been posted to the file. So that confirms that there are 4 variances remaining. 2 have been removed. So those zoning waivers were submitted earlier, but now that we got the notice, so we've submitted that. And in-depth discussions were had with planning, and the latest revision posted on file was made in accordance with their recommendations. And as a result of these changes, planning has no objections to the application.
Okay. Okay, and we have, I believe, 5 letters of support. And,
yes, we actually have 10 letters of support. One is labeled as letters of support. The other one is supporting materials, but there is 10 in total.
Okay. Okay, I want to see members, any questions for Mr. Dome? And if not, is someone ready for a motion? Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion with respect to applicant's revision page, April 6th, 2023. I find the variances set out meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval without conditions.
Okay. Thank you. Seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. McCluskey. All in favor? We have another unanimous approval. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, have a good day. Members, staff, now is the appropriate time. We've been at this for an hour and we're well on schedule. So perhaps we take a 15-minute break and return at 10:45 with everyone's permission.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for bearing with us for that quick break. We'll get started in a moment. All just a note, we have lost the chair's connection. We'll make sure we reestablish connection and get going right away. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Chair. We can hear you. We cannot see you, though.
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Chair. We can hear you. We cannot.
Hello.
Yep. Mr. Chair, we can hear you. We cannot see you. And it seems like you cannot hear us, though. Everyone, we're still working to connect the chair. Mr. Chair, if you can hear me, we see that you're logged in, but we cannot see or hear you at this time.
Hello, I'm back.
Good afternoon, Good morning, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I somehow I have two internet connections. When I came back from the break, it said I wasn't connected. I kept trying to connect the two devices, my phone and my iPad. I'm now back on the internet connection that's further away. But anyway, have you been waiting for me, or did you proceed?
Mr. Clark, we've been waiting.
Oh, okay. I feel honored. I'm sorry.
We just
so
can't
apologize.
see you. We just can't see you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, you can see me now?
Not yet, Mr. Chair.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay.
We still
extra long break.
We still don't see you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, you still don't? Okay,
I'll let you know when we see you. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're at number 9. It's to conduct interior and exterior alterations to the existing structure in order to increase the existing office, warehouse, and retail area to add an accessory restaurant use. There, we have a revised plan. There were 10 variances. There are now 9. We have cover letter dealing with the revisions, landscape plan. We have previous decisions on this property, many previous decisions on the history of this property. We have a planning justification and traffic study and presentations and discussion of the right-of-way expansion from the agent. And we have we have a planning report, for information, and then we have transportation has conditions of approval. And the speaker for this application is Stephen Pam. I must say, I don't believe I have an operation, but I do frequent the butcher shop products. Just a customer. Stephen Pam. Sorry again about the delay.
Of course. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's great to have you back, and I hope everyone can hear me loud and clear.
Loud and clear, for sure.
Okay, excellent. And good morning, everyone.
So you are the only you are the only speaker, but I guess we should have a presentation on this. Thank you.
Yes, I do. If planning staff or the clerk could put that on the screen, that would be much appreciated. Yes, perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, so again, good morning, everyone. My name is Stephen Fan. I am a planner at Weston Consulting, and Weston is the planning agent on behalf of the owner of the subject property. If we could go to the next slide, please. And next slide, please.
Stephen, just continue. We're going to have a bit of lag on our end here, so just as you go, we'll do our best to keep up.
Okay, no problem. Then I'll just simply continue. So the site is known as 111 to 127 Shorncliffe Road. It is located north of North Queen Street and east of Shorncliffe Road. The property has an area of about 9,300 square meters and a frontage of 133 meters along Shorncliffe Road. Next slide, please. The site is designated as core employment area within the city's official plan. It is also zoned as employment industrial under the zoning bylaw. There is an existing meat processing, distribution, and storage facility known as the butcher shop located on the property, which is permitted under the current planning framework. The 3D renderings that you see on the next slide provide a visual for how the existing and proposed development will look like at full build-out. The purpose of the minor variance application that you see before you today, along with the active site plan control application that's currently in progress, are to permit various 1- and 2-story expansions to the existing meat processing, distribution, and storage facility. To permit this expansion, 9 variances are being requested from the committee today. We have reviewed the report prepared by planning staff, and we do concur with their recommendations to approve 8 of the proposed variances. However, with respect to the recommendation to refuse variance number 3 regarding the bicycle parking space distance, we are of the opinion that this variance in fact meets the 4 tests under the Planning Act for the following reasons. And if we could just zoom back to the slide with the site plan. that would be much appreciated. And perhaps if we could zoom into the 12 bicycle parking spaces located at the southeast corner of the property, that would be much appreciated. So exactly right there, where your cursor is pointing. There might be a delay in zooming in, but nevertheless, I'll just simply continue. So you can see that there are 12 parking spaces located at the southeast corner of the property there, which are technically located 39 meters up from a pedestrian entrance. However, we understand that this is actually an interpretation from zoning staff that because these 12 parking spaces are in fact located less than 30 meters away from an employee entrance. It's under our understanding that zoning staff do not interpret the employee entrance to be a pedestrian entrance. Nevertheless, we believe that this variance meets the floor test under the Planning Act for the following reasons. Number one, transportation staff reviewed and provided a report regarding the proposed variances, including variance number 3 with respect to the bicycle parking spaces. Staff noted that all of the entryways are interconnected inside the building, so accessing one entrance will permit entry into the rest of the building. Overall, transportation staff agreed in the report that there are no safety concerns which would arise from this variance regarding the bicycle parking space distance from a transportation perspective. Number 2, there is in fact a proposed concrete sidewalk that will provide a safe and logical connection from those 12 bicycle parking spaces to all of the entryways on the property. This proposed sidewalk will help to minimize any safety concerns with respect to the location of the bicycle parking spaces and their distance from a main entryway or an employee entryway. Number 3, there is, excuse me, there is an active site plan control application for the detailed design of the proposed expansion. Through this process, staff have been made well aware that there are a considerable amount of site constraints that greatly limit opportunities for relocating the bicycle spaces, including the sheer amount of underground infrastructure and parking spaces located and existing and proposed to optimally service the business. We have also been asked as the proponent by urban forestry to maximize the amount of soil volume and new trees on the property. So in weighing and balancing all of these considerations from a transportation, engineering, urban forestry, and landscaping perspective, we have simply exhausted all feasible opportunities for locating these bicycle parking spaces closer to a main entrance. And finally, number 4, the people who will be cycling and using the employee entrance with respect to these 12 spaces will mainly be staff who work at the business. Thus, we believe that the bicycle spaces are located in appropriate distance, less than 30 meters, from the employee entrance to service the business and staff. In summary, we do believe that variance number 3 meets the 4 tests under the Planning Act and request that the committee provides their approval today. This variance is necessary to achieve a balance of considerations on the site that achieves all other objectives from a transportation, engineering, urban forestry, and landscaping perspective. And that concludes my presentation. I would be very happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pham, for that presentation. Members, any questions for Mr. Pham, or is someone ready for a motion? Mr. Taylor, just got a visual on you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, just a question. Sir, are you aware of and okay with the Transportation Department's condition of approval?
Yes. Yes, we are.
Okay. If there are no other questions, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay.
First of all, just a comment. I think anybody that rides a bicycle to work isn't going to have a problem walking an extra 9.3 meters to the building. So I don't see that as an issue whatsoever. I find the variances meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval subject to the Transportation Department condition.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. We have a seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion. Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Okay, of unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Pham. We'll see you again. Okay, our next application, moving right along, is item number 10, 42 Holwood Avenue. It's to convert the existing garage into habitable space. There is one variance that the proposed parking space will be located in the front yard. We have photos, a petition in support. Transportation has, I'm not sure if it's advisory or conditions of approval. And that's it. So the speaker on this application is Jorge Dacuna.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yes, good morning. My name is
Morning.
Jorge Dacuna. I represent the homeowner of 42 Holwood Avenue. He's proposing to convert his existing garage, attached garage, to a livable space. The reason he wanted that is because he doesn't use the garage as a garage. Right now, he uses it as a storage for a long time. So he willing to do the conversion, and he's willing to do some renovation around the parking, because the parking encroaches the city property, right? So we have to ask the transportation we're going to apply for transportation for parking of the street application. So I spoke to the transportation a few days ago, and he told me as soon as the committee pass, and then you can issue it's a very long process, but you can issue off-street parking.
Okay, so thank you. Yeah, so I'm a little confused reading this. I guess I still am. Staff, is this a condition to be imposed, or is it advisory, or it seems to describe a certain process of?
It's not a condition. It's just a comment.
Okay, so it says we recommend if the committee approves your application, we recommend approval on the basis that the subject property site is eligible to obtain a front yard parking. That last paragraph doesn't imply that they want us to impose a condition.
No, because if for some reason they can't obtain that through polling or whatever availability, then their decision wouldn't be valid.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Dacuna, or someone ready for a motion? Mr. Taylor, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm satisfied the requested variances meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval without conditions.
Thank you. The seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion. Ms. Reddick, thank you. All in favor? It's unanimous. You have your approval. Thank you, Mr. Dacuna.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too. Okay, next application is item number 11. It's 16 Edgehill Road. It's an application to construct a 2-story front addition, a 2-story north and south side additions, and a rear yard loggia. There are 9 variances, and we have a cover letter. Planning has 2 conditions of approval. They want variance 7 refused, and then a construct is illustrated with respect to the length and depth. In the additional materials, we have an agent's letter in reply to the planning memo with photos, and regarding the architectural feature as revised. And okay, and the speaker is Anthony Gornick, the agent architect. So we can hear further from him on that issue of the architectural feature that planning would like refused. And that's the only speaker. Mr. Gornick?
Hi, this is Anthony Gornick here for 16 Edgehill. We have, as you mentioned, we have 9 variances related to this renovation and addition. The majority of the variances are somewhat existing conditions that are sort of, with side yard setbacks and front yard setbacks and whatnot. I am aware of the staff report from the assistant planner, and they're concerned with regards to the architectural feature along the north side of the property. The fundamental of that design is to just create an anchor for a gated entry to the rear garden. So the majority of this design is related to a rear loggia. So the homeowners can enjoy the rear garden and a swimming pool. They do not have a cottage and they want to spend a lot of their time enjoying the rear yard. So this is sort of a feature that leads friends and family to the rear backyard. So
perhaps we can get your additional materials up on the board, staff. I'm just looking at the additional materials.
Mr. Chair,
the photos provided.
We're just having some lagging concerns on our end.
Thank you, no problem. Yeah, it's a very attractive looking feature, in my opinion.
The fundamental, the fundamental of the home is just changing the complexion slightly. The roof heights are going to stay the same.
Right.
The widths are the same. It's just adding that little design feature, which is basically a little 18-inch by 18-inch brick pier that anchors a gate to the rear garden.
And I take it the neighbor, has the neighbor been consulted on that?
Yes, I hand delivered about 18 or 19 of these packages to all the neighbors in the direct vicinity, and nobody has been in contact with us. My homeowner and the owner of 60 Edgehill has been communicating with the neighbor, and everybody seems to be okay with it.
Okay. Okay, so we're still having that. I'm looking at it on my screen. There it is. There they are. Okay, ma'am. So do you want to just go through and just explain why you feel this is the only issue I think we have to touch upon? Go through your photos and explain to the members why you feel that this is supportable, notwithstanding planning's position.
Well, I've submitted some photographs of similar features, especially this one here that's on our screen. There's a stone pier off to the right-hand side that anchors an iron gate. So I'd say the fundamentals of what we're creating in our application are somewhat similar to this. And down, they're just gates to lead us into the backyard. This one here is sort of an extension off the left-hand side of a home. This is a project we did many years ago. These did not require variances. So fundamentally, if I created a stone pier that did not have the connection as we're proposing under design, I would not need a variance for this. So it's just a design feature.
I'm trying to understand what the impact is on this. It says it has the potential to negatively impact the neighboring property to the north.
In my opinion, there's no impact.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to hear. Any members, anyone have any questions? I'll turn it over to you see if anyone has any questions for Mr. Gornick, or if someone's ready to weigh in with a motion. I take it, Mr. Gornick, you have no issue with the other condition about construct as illustrated in terms of the length and the depth tying you to the plans?
I agree with that.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Anyone have any questions or ready to weigh in with a motion? Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm satisfied the variances meet the four tests under the Planning Act. I don't accept the Community Planning Department recommendation for refusal of variance 7. But I would move approval. I would move approval subject to the Planning Department's condition on the construction as built as shown on the submitted plans with respect to those 2 items. I'm sorry, that came out in additional information. I don't have that in front of me, but so I'm not sure what the words are, but.
You mean with respect to the planning condition?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one where it was in the planning memo here. It's the proposed development shall be constructed as illustrated in the architectural plans dated February 16, 2023, held on file by the Committee of Adjustment as it relates to the building length and depth.
Okay, then I would move approval subject to that condition.
Okay. Yeah, there is no forestry. Seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion. Ms. McCluskey, thank you. All in favor? It's unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Gornick. You have your approvals.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Okay, item number 12 is 450 Evans Avenue, and it's an application to permit a parking deficiencies. There are two variances. It looks like the total parking deficiency is from 59 down to 33 spaces. And I thought we had a number of people here, but we don't. Joseph Plutino is the agent. The other two people listed on my sheet are just the traffic consultant and the owner being available for questions. So this is really an unopposed application. So Mr. Plutino.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members, Joe did ask to be on screen, so I have moved him and made him a panelist and I've unmuted him. And as you can see, he has activated his video on his own, so he's ready to go.
Okay, thank you. And I just note that we do have the additional materials, a cover letter, presentation. We have nothing on file, or just a Metrolinx advisory on this file. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I'm going to be very, very brief, I promise. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to this matter. I'm Joe Platino. I'm the principal planner at Mainline Planning. I represent Prologis Canada, Inc. I am their principal planner and agent on this matter, and matters pertaining to 450 with respect to a site plan application that was submitted a year and a half ago, and presently we have building permits with the city that are doing a concurrent review as that application is substantially considered complete. I suppose I had a very brief discussion, but you have, I'm aware that you have a memorandum from Transportation Services. I'm aware that they support the access to loading spaces from a major road. If it's okay with you, I'd like to just focus on the other variance, which is the parking lot.
Okay, staff, I don't seem to have anything from transportation on this. Did I miss something? In my bookmark, we have notice, we have the just basically Metrolinx advisory in the bookmark. Where does that, is that any additional
That's correct.
materials?
We don't have anything from Transportation Services.
Okay.
I stand corrected. If that's the case, then thank you very much. I would defer to my planning justification report, indicate that my pleasure working with staff for the last year and a half to make sure that this project is designed in accordance with all urban design standards. We've created an amazing streetscape along Evans Road, and I hope that you will support this development as it is deemed to be a priority employment project for the city.
Okay. Members, any questions for Mr. Plutino, or is someone ready for a motion? I don't have visual on anyone other than Laura. Oh, yep. There we go. Any questions, or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
Don Taylor. Hello.
I don't see your hand up.
Oh, you don't see me. Don.
It looks like you're frozen. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah, I believe the two variances meet the four tests under the Planning Act. I move approval without conditions.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Laura, all in favor? Again, I can't see. Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Buccino, you have your approval. Okay, our next application is item number 13, 539 Rustic Road. It's an application to construct a second-story addition above the existing dwelling, a new front stairs, new second-story rear addition above the new rear yard deck. And there are three variances. We have a one-page presentation. And nothing else on file. Fabian Greco is the agent for the applicant.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee.
Good morning. Very straightforward application. I see that we don't have any comments from any departments or any neighbors. So why don't we just see if members have any questions for you, or if someone's ready to weigh in. Is there anything you'd like to advise the committee members of?
No, like you said, we actually have discussed as well ourselves our application with the assistant planner, who had no comments on our proposal and believe that the variances are minor in nature.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, members, or is someone ready for a motion?
I'm happy to make a motion if no one has any questions.
Yes.
I move for approval of the variances requested. I believe they're minor in nature and desirable for the development of the land. And I move again for approval, and I believe there are no conditions, not even forestry.
Correct. Thank you. Seconded for Ms. Alderson's motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ms. Reddick. All in favor? Unanimous approval.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next application is item number 14, 81 VANEVERY Street. We have revised agenda page dated April 6th showing changes to the application. This is to construct a new triplex dwelling. There were 6 variances. There are now 2. Both have been revised. We have the revised plans and zoning waiver. We have the plans, applicants' revisions, cover letter. We have supporting material, a mass study, a context study, and precedents. We have 3 letters of support, 3 letters of opposition. Planning is recommending refusal of the application. Transportation has 3 conditions of approval. There are Metrolinx advisory comments. Urban Forestry looking for condition 2. And in the additional material, we have basically a long email thread dating back to November 8, 2022, and then we have a presentation materials. We have 4 speakers. We have Hamia Aghamabodi, the agent for the applicant, and then we have 3 neighbors at 86, 92, and 79 VANEVERY registered to speak as well, subject to Adam confirmation that they're all present on the line.
Mr. Chair and members, the area resident for 92 VANEVERY was present on the call, but have since dropped off. Everyone else is present at this time.
Okay, let's start off with the agent then.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and member of committee. My name is Hamia Aghamabodi from Top Dot Architects, located at 108 Mimico Avenue. I'll be quick going through our presentation, and then I'll be happy to answer any question. Just a note, for the reason for that long chain of email is because there was some part of the staff report which was not correct. I talked to the manager of the planners. He mentioned that he cannot change when it's submitted. And one part that we were not, which was wrong, was that at some part of the report says we decided not to continue collaboration with planners and go with whatever we have, which was very wrong. And in the last email, you can see Al said, just tell them that you worked with us and it should be fine. We worked very hard with them. Unfortunately, due to the lack of the staff, planners decided to stop the communication and said it's better to go to the committee of adjustment. We don't have enough staff and we need to work on other projects. Other than that, everything else is. Can we have our presentation, please?
Mr. Chair, members, we'll have it up as soon as we possibly can. We're just having some lag still.
Okay, I'll go quickly through that. We did study the neighborhood in different levels. First, the whole Mimico, and that's when we started the conversation before starting the project with planners. And we had possibilities, and they advised us to go with a triplex, which is aligned with planners' vision and EHON and everything else, which I'm not going to talk about that more because you already had done with other projects. Our site, then we studied the immediate neighborhood, which is on the west side, a commercial zone. Then the north block is commercial as well, and then south is all RM zone. The third level, which was the most important part, was we started our property, like studying our property and the street. So looking at, unfortunately, it's not up on the screen. We took a photo panoramic from where our project is, all around 180 degree. As you can see, building A, D, F, G are bungalows. Building B is rental 2-story. Building C is a commercial, and building E is the 2 new detached house with 87% of density, and then building H, which is a modern detached house. On page 4, we just showed few like the variety of design and building type that are existent in this street. Detached houses, modern, transitional design, bungalows, rentals, old rentals, 6-plex, 4-plexes, 2-plexes, and then row houses. We try to figure out where this street is going toward, and as we can see, it's a mix of detached houses and multi-units, which is very normal in this neighborhood. Then on slide 5, we're showing like a number of rentals in this street and how they're shaping the character of this street. We were fine with all this with planners. They were happy with everything. The only part was that in terms of density, they were not happy. They were like, you have to reduce it. We tried to find what would make sense in their eyes, and they didn't find it appropriate to guide us in that matter. They were like, we don't have really that much of precedent here as a new bill, so we can tell you what's the right number. Just try to make it less. We made it less. We went to 1.19. They were not happy. We worked even more with that within last few weeks. We saw that if you want to have three bedrooms with appropriate and healthy environment with enough light while respecting neighbors' privacy, not trying to have windows on the side to just invade their privacy, and trying to get enough natural light, enough natural ventilation, we started working with a mass, where we started to break it down with all the pandemic bringing us of this home office and everything. Then we studied the neighborhood. We found few new triplexes and duplexes.
Okay, sir, you have 30 minutes, 30 seconds left. If you can please wrap up.
So we studied those. They're not very close. They're in Caval Avenue. They're mostly on the east side of the Royal York. Those are attached. And we found that in all those buildings, in terms of square footage, they are very similar to what we are proposing. At the end, with what the planners proposed, we made a comparison on page 13 that you can see what they asked us ended up to 106.6 with no natural light. What we are proposing is 117%. But
okay, sir, please wrap up. You know, there's no one here. You've had 5 minutes.
I will go to listen to.
Unfortunately, your plans weren't on the board, but we all have the plans before us to follow it along.
Yeah.
But please wrap up, and then I have a very important question for you.
Okay, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. I think I can explain more when to answer your questions.
Okay, so you're done?
Yes.
Okay, so you had 6 variants. You took it down to 2. It looks like we have one very important variance, the FSI, which was at 129 when the planning report was written. They said in that report they felt there was opportunity for you to bring down the massing in order to satisfy and make the application better and still have good sized units that you were looking for. I'm just going to pull it up and read directly from that, but that's what they said. So then you have a revision and you have reduced it from 1.29 to 1.17. Do we know whether or not that satisfies community planning's concerns, or do they feel when they say, just go to it, And again, it looks like their review in their memo, March 23rd, they say city planning staff are of the opinion that revisions can be made to reduce the overall massing while still achieving family size units. These potential revisions include reducing the size of interior 3-story atrium, stepping back the top floor from the front main wall, and reducing the building length. The applicant has expressed that no further changes to the application will be made. So that's my question, is you did make further changes. So the big question, the elephant in the room here is, can you express whether that satisfied? We didn't have time, I guess, to go back and have community planning to say, yes, we're now happy, or we still feel the massing is too great. Do you have an answer to that?
I guess so. So the main issue we had with the planners was apparently the lack of staff. And then when I spoke to the planners, after
yes, you said that. What about lack of staff? I didn't understand what you were talking about.
So they said we don't have enough staff to continue on this. And the manager of planners, he asked me to set up a meeting with the urban designer from staff. But then he emailed me and said, unfortunately, we don't have staff to do that. So I would say either go change it and then send us to the revision, which I did, or just go to committee and see what would they say. With our, I have an email in that email chain that they ask us to reduce the, to play with the mass, reduce the depth of training, which are presenting there, it end up to 106.6. But then they mentioned that we are not sure if that would even satisfy us. And I was like, can you guys tell me what will satisfy you? And they said, we don't know. We don't feel it's appropriate for us to tell you what will satisfy us. So that was when they go to
I'm going to cut you off. So you don't have an answer to that. You don't have an answer. You're telling me you don't know if that reduction that you made from 1.29 to 1.17 and the factors that I mentioned where they thought there was room for changes, if that was complied with. So let me see if first, let's see if anyone has any questions for you now. Then we're going to hear from the three neighbors. I just thought that was a very simple, I don't know why that didn't happen. If community planning, I can't believe community planning told you, sorry, we don't have enough staff. We wrote a memo and said, we think your application has too much mass. You made changes. We wrote them, and now we're not going to tell you whether we're happy or not. Okay, that's that, right? So
well,
let's
Mr.
go on
Chair,
to the next.
I would like to point out the memo was dated March 23rd, but the applicant didn't submit revisions until April 6th. So leading into a double short week, the staff would not have time to review.
Okay.
So really, there should have been a deferral.
Yeah, so I don't think staff would have said to the gentleman, sorry, we don't have time to do this at all, but maybe not in time for the March 13th meeting. So that's I think what I think.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, while I'm answering everyone's question.
Hold on a second. I'll let you answer one more, and then I'm going to see if members think this should be deferred. Okay. Say what you want to say.
Can I just quickly refer to page 14 of the Appendix A? You can see my email with Al, and Theo's email even with Pavel, and then the one after. And at the end, now I will take the questions and
okay, so now that I have a better understanding, it's not that staff is telling you we're not dealing with this anymore. You said something like that. We're not dealing with this. We have no staff. They didn't have enough time, perhaps, to review and see if they were.
These are from 2 weeks ago, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I'm going to ask if please let's see if members have any members on the issue of whether this should be. I heard someone mention, Ms. Alderson, perhaps this should have been deferred. So does anyone want to weigh in with any comment before?
On the outset, it probably should have been deferred, but anyway.
Right. Now, we do have three neighbors on the line here too waiting.
I know.
Right? So,
I know.
Okay, so it wasn't deferred. So let's then hear from the neighbors and we'll make a decision. Okay? Does that everyone agree with that?
Sure. Or we can just call it a day and defer it now and ask if the neighbors are okay with that.
Yeah. Well, if you know what.
What does the rest of the committee think?
Because the other issue is he did say, okay, he wasn't making any further changes. That's wording we often see in the planning report. And then he did make changes.
And community planning is asking for refusal as their memo stands, they're asking for refusal.
Correct. And he's made this presentation, he hasn't told us whether the 3 factors that planning mentioned, making the atrium smaller and a few other comments that they made of where there was wiggle room to bring that matter down, whether at 1.17 where 0.6 is permitted. So if he didn't want, he's chosen, staff perhaps can weigh in, or other members, he's chosen that he doesn't want to, or in light of this refusal, some applicants would have said in that case, I think it's important to wait till I get word from planning. He hasn't pointed us to the fact that, yes, I reduced the atrium and I did the other, I pulled it back and I did these other things where he got the reduction and whether that was sufficient or not. So he's leaving that up to the committee to decide. And I guess that is his prerogative. Okay, he didn't ask for a deferral, so he still has that refusal memo in front of him. Okay, so we've spent some time. Let's hear now from the neighbors. First neighbor is Portia Corman at 86 VANEVERY.
Mr. Chair, members, Portia has asked to be on screen, so I've gone ahead and moved her to a panelist. Portia, you can now start your video by clicking the Start Video button, and I'll go ahead and unmute you.
Okay.
Okay, hi. I don't know if you
can
see me, but I think it's irrelevant. Oh, now you can't see me. Okay. So I haven't seen the new version with the variant adjustments. I have the original version. So that's kind of what I was basing everything off. But I don't know whether you're still debating whether to talk about this at another time, or did you decide you're not doing that?
Now we decided he's chosen to proceed, so he's chosen.
Mr. Chairman, I did not decide to proceed, by the way.
Well, sorry, sir, if you can mute, you didn't come here asking for a deferral, right? You came in you made your presentation already. You didn't say, well, you know what, given this memo and the fact that I made changes, and they said that I want to get, I think it's important to get planning's position. Instead, you said, sorry, they're too busy, informing that they weren't going to deal with this at all. So we're proceeding.
Okay. So I'll take the floor then.
Yeah.
I agree with planning, obviously. As a bungalow owner on VANEVERY, I'm slowly being surrounded. I'm in a little up house, and the light, I would say, is the biggest problem. I know that the builder was talking about, well, there's other triplexes and or duplexes on the street, but they don't have that same issue that our street has with bungalows beside these behemoths of light blocking. So understanding that the city needs more rental housing, I totally get that. But I'm hoping that the planning committee, which it sounds like they're doing, will try to balance the needs of the people that already have yards and are seeking light and privacy and bought here for that reason, with the needs of more rental space. My other concern, which I don't think has anything to do with this committee, is parking, because from what I can tell, there's only one spot. And I was looking at a larger space and more people in the original paperwork I saw. And that was a big concern to me. Maybe if there are fewer units, that won't be as big a deal, but it's already pretty stressed on the street. So I don't want to waste your time saying all the things that I've heard a million Torontonians already say today. It's all the same thing. It's just that, we bought our houses in a certain place because they had offered a certain thing, and having places that go up and box us in is, it really does limit our enjoyment of our property. And so I just hope that that's a consideration, understanding that more people need places to live as well. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Corman? Okay, and as Ms. Corman was speaking, we just have the another speaker at 79 right next door. But I'll just note here that planning in their report did mention that there were a revised set of plans. So I'm going to ask, when we go back to the agent, whether in fact there was a previous set He says these concerns were communicated to the applicant, which resulted in the applicant sending city plat a revised set of plans. The variants were improved, though this revised plans, however, the revised materials were still not to the satisfaction of the city. At the time of the writing of this report, which I guess is March 23rd, revised plans have yet to be submitted to the committee. So I don't know if they were aware of these changes or not, or if there was a previous iteration before that that was even higher than the 1.29. So Mr. Ajiambadi will respond to that after we've heard from Mr. Chen, the neighbor right next door. Mr. Chen?
Hi, this is Eva. I'm at 79 Vanevary
Oh,
Street.
sorry, I said your name was Evan. My apologies.
It's okay. It's Eva.
My name is Evan.
No, it's Eva.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. So I too have the same concerns Portia does, but I, being next door, have more of a massive, I guess it would be a massive triplex that would be next door and would be more, I guess, more noise, more traffic. It being right now a single family residence will be, I'm guessing, 3 family, so it would be more noise. And my daughter's room is actually right next door, and she's very sensitive to noise. So my thing is the height, the natural light, and a massive, I guess it'll be taking part of the backyard to make room for, I guess, the length of putting, like, I guess, 3 families. So
yeah,
that's my major concern, would be
okay.
that the length and the traffic on the street also.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Chen? Anyone have any questions? So we'll go back to Mr. Ajiambadi. And sir, I just realized I was just looking, and yes, this was a revised plan. So when you were at 6 variances, you're now 2. That's the one they referred to as your change down to 1.29 and eliminating those 4 other variances. So the fact that city planning was not aware, I guess, of these changes, or were they? Because they make a reference to well, it came not satisfactory. But
Mr. Chairman.
But usually, when they show the variances at the outset of the reports, they always do. It did show it when you did have the 6 variances, and they made reference to the fact that you've come back to something. So in any event, when I read your report in my review last night, I wrote a very good presentation because you were dealing with all these points. But the elephant in the room is it's all irrelevant. The only issue is the massing. Should you be permitted to build a house at 1.19%? Is that fair with a street comprising mainly of bungalows where the performance standard is at 0.6? That's the only real question here. Okay, so please give us your, and if you want your presentation on the board or your rebuttal, we can get staff to accommodate that.
Yes, please. Shall I first answer the questions to the neighbors and then get to that?
Yeah.
Okay. Regarding the neighbor next to us, 79 Vanevary, that's the neighbor on our east side. Our driveway is on the east side. In no way we are blocking the natural light to that neighbor. We totally understand the neighbor expressed that they don't feel safe due to that driveway. But first thing, we can move the driveway because we need to keep the tree in front. But if we replace the driveway with the building, then we're going to block the natural light. So I understand the concern from residents that they don't want to have triplex, fourplex, or bigger building, but at the same time, that's the way the city is going. In terms of the other neighbor, which is, I believe, in front of us and on the east side, again, in no way our building shed any shadow on theirs, and there is no impact from us except of course density, and of course 3 units bring more people into one lot rather than what. I'm not going to elaborate on that more than this. Regarding the mass, if you go to the presentation at page, I don't know if you have our presentation up there, but if you go to the very end of the presentation, we try to explain how and why we are bringing that atrium in the middle. We are trying to explain, compare the two set of approaches. That if you go one page to the page 12, please. Yeah, here you see the approach that we were speaking with planners, and they were like, why don't you do the traditional boxes like the one below? And we were explaining how that would affect the natural light in the middle of the building due to the privacy that we will try to keep for the neighbors and the fire safety issues. We cannot really have windows on the sides, so we can provide natural light just from front and rear side of the building. The way we figured, we try to just break down. We are not going above zoning bylaw in terms of building depth, building height, setbacks. We are respecting everything. The zoning planners are referring to is the first zoning exam, which was even not this one. There is another one which is submitted with the initial submission, which had way more variances. And they asked us to get rid of, it was 4-story. So they asked us to get rid of the fourth one, we did. They asked us to comply for the soft landscaping, we did. And then we start breaking down the mass to both bring light to the residents, at the same time not have a huge mass just going all the way. We are not making a huge mass. We are making it look nicer from pedestrian view walking there. We did a lot of study on that. It's not, we are not trying to gain more FSI for the residents inside. It's technically because of the nature of triplexes. Unfortunately, based on building code and the zoning, we cannot deduct the common area with staircases from the FSI, which is almost 20% of our FSI. And then we have to have 2 staircases for fire safety and building code matters. And we need to have them far enough from each other to be able to provide safety, which means more than half of the diagonal size of the building. That's why we will have that atrium in the middle. It's not that we are trying to create any crazy thing, but the buildings planners were referring to in the beginning was the old triplexes, which one was in the basement and they don't have 2 staircases. Any new development you see on triplexes, they go above and beyond 1.1. I think we attached those samples to that, and it's not because they needed more for their living space, which technically we need. We provide decent size for a 3-bedroom for someone who want to work at home. At the same time, try to provide enough light and not really make it huge.
Okay, are you finished, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, members, any questions for any of the neighbors or for the agents? And we're all bringing them to committee for a decision. So I'm still a little confused. I've tried to read this planning report over several times. I believe what it means is that it looks like he said he wasn't making any more changes, and then he went ahead and did, and sort of said, planning said, let the committee decide, but as opposed to, well, we can't do it in the next 7 days before the hearing. And that's the issue. So we have to infer whether the reduction, it looks like 104 square meters off the 794 from 1.29 to 1.17 would have satisfied community planning in the event that we've, for ourselves, that this massing is appropriate. And that's the question, I guess, before us. Does anyone have any questions then for any of the other speakers or for Mr. Akemiabadi? And if not, does anyone want to bring it into committee for a discussion and a decision? Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm concerned about the floor space index variance. I don't know, but I don't believe the planning department would be supportive of this minor reduction from what was proposed initially. And I think we need to put the onus on the applicant to basically go back to square one and try and put something together that satisfies the planning department. I find this FSI, particularly in this street, which is predominantly bungalows and modest two-story homes, to be overdevelopment, substantial overdevelopment in my mind. So my motion would be to refuse this application.
Okay, thank you. Any comment? You second that? Okay, just a little discussion because I think this is important. Like we were put in an enviable position of having to try to determine whether planning would have been satisfied given the fact that they mentioned. And I don't think that the applicant satisfied that in terms of those characteristics, and could have easily waited and just deferred waiting to find out. But I think that perhaps is Mr. Taylor because they knew what the answer was, that they wouldn't have been satisfied.
I think the deferral window has closed now that we've spent so much time on this application. So I would be happy to second Mr. Taylor's motion.
Okay, I think Ms. Reddick already did.
Sorry.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, the matter is unanimously refused. Sorry about that, Mr. Agmiawadi, and thank you for the neighbors for your participation. We'll move on to item number 15, which is 9 Durban Road. It's for a detached dwelling with an attached garage with 5 variances. Urban Forestry is looking for a refusal. We have a memo from them, I believe. Deny variance 2. Community planning has conditions of approval, and forest and ravines and TRCA have no conditions or no objection, but a permit is required for TRCA. And the speaker for this application is Marco Vieira. Welcome, Marco.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Marco Vieira. I'm at 257 Dunraven Drive, and I'm the agent and designer for this application.
There's no other speakers and no opposition. Anything you'd like to advise the committee? I don't think we need a presentation per se.
Well, I can summarize it. I mean, we did discuss the application with planning. They are in support, but they do ask that we maintain a feature wall at the back by the balcony in the rear. We totally intend to use that as a screen wall, so we have no objections to that. TRCA is fine with our application, and we are currently working with our arborist and forestry with respect to 2 of the trees. It doesn't impact the dwelling per se. It impacts the proposed location of the pool. We might need to change the size of the pool or move it over, but it doesn't interfere with the proposed variances. So we're fine to work with forestry on that matter.
Okay, what about the urban forestry? Their variance number 2, they feel that the depth of 21.64, where 1.9 is the additional increment of almost 3 meters, is going to affect the tree. If the tree would have been affected, notwithstanding even with the dwelling at 19, then they can't complain. So are they correct? Is this extra almost 3 meters? They want to deny that variance?
No, they are not correct. The variance or the depth of the dwelling doesn't interfere with the tree of concern. If you bring up the site plan, I can outline the tree location that they're concerned about. It has to do with the stairs, and the stairs are located on the left side of the dwelling. And at the back, if you kind of zoom in a little bit, there you go, and down, you'll see that there's 3 steps from the proposed balcony or deck at the first floor level. If you can just scroll it down a little bit more, you'll be able to see. Sorry, not down, up. There you go. So there's basically a total of 15 risers because of the grade change at the back. So the lot is much higher in the front, and it dropped approximately 4.3 meters from front to back. The proposed location of the retaining wall and the stairs is what's triggering the concern for the trees on the left side there. So if we eliminate that or leave the stairs to just sit on the existing grade, then we would be looking at maintaining those trees. So the actual depth variance doesn't impact those trees at all.
Okay, so I have a question. Maybe I need a lunch break, but I look at the report, 9 Durban. It's a picture of the tree in the front. City owns maple. It doesn't even talk about a rear tree. It talks about the front tree. So how can the depth of the have affect the front? Is that?
I'm puzzled on that one because there's no changes on that, nor is there a change to the driveway. There's no impact to that existing tree.
I see. Okay.
That's why we've reached out to our arborist to provide a response to the concern and see where we could shift things. But with regards to the existing tree in the front, there's not even a proposed injury.
Okay. And that looks like the house and the house being shown with the Mercedes white SUV in the driveway. That's not your house. Your house is the house on the left where we only see
correct
a little bit of a car. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So that tree is not being affected in any way by your construction or by your depth in particular.
Has nothing to do with it.
Okay. And you've explained about a rear tree.
Yes, because we see that is a concern with ravine where they don't support removal of trees where patios or pool may be the issue. So that's the one we're looking to resolve because we believe that is the impact.
And both ravines and TRCA are both on side.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, members, any questions for Mr. Vieira?
Yeah, maybe you've covered this. I really don't know, but there were two memos from forestry, one that said there were no conditions and one that said they were seeking refusal, number 5 or number 1. And I just want to know which is the one we should be considering. There were two memos that were, one of them, as I said, was there was no concerns or no conditions. And then there was another one, I think that was the
do you mean on the overall checklist that we get?
The overall checklist, it was 5 and 2. It was 5 actually. On the overall checklist, it was 5. And then it doesn't even have 2 as an option. It just has 5.
What we've been discussing through the last couple of minutes is the fact that the city report refers to a tree in the front. They talk about the length, and Mr. Vieira in his presentation went through the fact that the tree in the back and the stairs, and the fact that TRCA and ravines have no concern. So
okay. So number 5 no longer applies then.
Doesn't seem to be.
Yeah.
No, 5, the item 5 means that there's a standalone report where they've given a recommendation to refuse variance number 2. So if you look at the site plan, they do have 2 X's through 2 boundary trees along the right-hand side.
Right,
and
but
that
their
is
planning
affected
report
by the depth.
Yeah. Right, and the planning report has a picture of the front tree and refers to the front tree, but does refer to the length and the depth.
Do you, Mr. Chair? And those trees on the side of the house, they're not an impact to variance number 2. That is well within the as of right length of the house.
Right.
So those, and we are working with the adjacent neighbor in removing those collectively because they impact this property as well. So we don't see how that's this particular proposal.
Yeah, the report talks about the length and the depth, which means a rear tree being affected by what's been
So
done.
did you submit the as of right site plan that you're supposed to submit?
Yes, we've submitted, and we're actually asking our arborist to provide response and seeing how we could mitigate the impact. But through the arborist review of this, the 2 trees at the back are concerned, not the 2 boundary trees that are within the footprint. And that's why we're, accepting that there's a condition that we work with forestry. We would like to provide them additional information than that. That's 2 trees are basically just past the back of the current dwelling. And you can see the 2 adjacent dwellings actually extend well beyond that.
The concern isn't the existing dwelling because that doesn't impact roots. Any digging for a new house, which you're doing, does. And that's why when you submit your application, if you're affecting any trees as part of your tree declaration, you're supposed to submit as part of this package the as of right permitted site plan so that urban forestry can see that information clearly. This isn't shown here, and I suggest you do that in the future.
Oh, we can do that. They haven't requested it, but certainly we can provide that.
It's an application requirement. When you affect a tree, you're supposed to provide an as of right site plan.
Well, I thank you for that, but I wasn't aware of that. Never come across in previous applications, and we do a lot of these, but I will take it up with forestry.
Okay, members, any further questions for Mr. Vieira? Or is someone ready for a motion? Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm satisfied the variances requested meet the four tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval subject to urban forestry condition 1 and the community planning department condition, which is that the proposed development shall be constructed as illustrated on the revised architectural plans submitted February 21st, 2023, and held on file by the Committee of Adjustment as they relate to the second story depth and length of the dwelling.
Okay, thank you. Second of Mr. Taylor's motion, Ms. Alderson. Thank you. All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Everyone's hands went up. Okay, thank you, Mr. Vieira. Your application has been approved. Thank you. Item number 16 is 23 Edgecroft Road. And this is an application for a detached dwelling with attached garage with 6 variances. We have two cover letters, arborist report, 2 sets of supporting materials, a chart of approved variances on Edgecroft. Transportation has no concerns. And there are a total of, it looks like 3 letters of support from 19, 25, and 21 Edgecroft, so both adjacent neighbors. Urban Forestry looking for conditions 1 and 2. The speaker is Gabriele Guiducci. Agent for the applicant, no other speakers.
Good afternoon, Chair, Committee. My name is Gabriel Guiducci. I'm the agent for this file.
Yes, sir. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, your pause, I guess.
Yes, I was wondering if you seek a presentation, I'd be more than happy. The variances on my end are fairly straightforward, and we have submitted an explanation on a couple of these variances that could have raised a concern from a planning point of view, but we've seen planning not submitting any comments on this application.
That's correct. We have nothing from planning. So we do have 6 variances. They're pretty straightforward, appear to be relatively minor based on your supporting materials. Members, have any questions for Mr. Guiducci, or is someone ready for a motion, or do you feel you want a presentation or just answer some questions you may have? Or none of the above? I don't have a visual, so I'll take that as no one has any questions. Is anyone ready for a motion? Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm satisfied the variances requested meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act. I move approval subject to urban forestry conditions 1 and 2.
Okay, thank you. Second for Mr. Taylor's motion, please. Ms. Ruddick, thank you. All in favor? It's unanimous. You have your approval. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Committee. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
You too. Okay, our next application is item 1769 Eagle Road. It's an application for a new detached dwelling with an attached garage, 6 variances, 3 letters of support. 2 letters from 67 and 71, both adjacent. Letter of opposition from 78. Transportation has no concerns. Forestry wants us to deny variances 1 and 3, and are imposing conditions 2 and or 5 or refusal. The speaker for this application is Yosef Kazanji, the owner of the property, who did not register. Okay. Welcome.
Yosef. Yeah, Hello, can you
Ben?
hear me?
Yes, I hear you now. Welcome.
Hi, guys. Thank you.
Okay,
The
so you're looking
application
to
is
build a new
pretty
house with 6 variances here.
correct.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to let the committee members know? I see you have a couple of letters of support and a letter of opposition. The letter of opposition dealt with drainage, which is really not our issue, if I remember correctly.
I spoke to this individual and
Yes.
he had just questions and clarifications versus an objection.
Yeah, they're talking about some ditch that runs and pools.
Correct.
Whether that's going to make the situation worse or not. And other than that, you have both adjacent neighbors and support. Nice to see people consulting and, with their neighbors. We're both supportive of what you want to do.
Now, with regards to urban forestry's comments, I spoke to Max Tida about the concern and I spoke to our arborist. We will be changing our landscape design to allow for an injury of the tree versus removal. The issue is some retaining walls and some landscaping under the trees, and we'll definitely change the complete landscaping design to accommodate the trees.
Okay.
So I seek your approval because it is minor in nature with a condition to let me coordinate with urban forestry to satisfy them.
Correct. Okay, sir. So let's see if members have any questions for you.
Sure.
So we've heard what the applicant intends to do with respect to the forestry memo's position with respect to the tree. They're going to try to save this tree. We have 2 letters of support from both adjacent neighbors, nothing from community planning. Any questions, or is someone ready for a motion? Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Chair, I'm satisfied the variances requested meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval subject to urban forestry condition number 2.
Okay, thank you. Seconded for Mr. Taylor's motion. Ms. McCluskey, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you. You have your approval.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, our last application of the morning session is number 1834 Edge Hill Road. It's an application for a 2-story rear addition. And there is only one variance, the floor space index of 0.51, where 0.5 is permitted. So we're basically 13 square meters over, we wouldn't be here. We have a previous decision from May 2007 regarding a new duplex dwelling being built with an attached garage, and 5 letters of support. And the speaker is Tom Sprague, agent for the applicant. Welcome, Mr. Sprague.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Good to hear your
Great.
voice.
Yeah, just a very brief background of this application. I'll be very quick, as the owners have lived in their home since 2008, and the purpose of this application is to install an elevator for accessibility so they can remain in the house. They've lived there for 15 years or so, and they do now need. So that's the reason for this application. As can be seen, there are letters of support from neighbors, including the 2 immediate neighbors on each side. And the variance is slightly more than the 0.5 that's required. So I do feel it's, in my opinion, it's minor and certainly a very reasonable application.
Well, if not for 13 square meters, you wouldn't have to be here. It's good to hear your voice.
Well, nice to hear yours too.
A lot of you know us down at the Toronto East York Committee.
Yeah.
Good to hear your voice. Any questions for Mr. Sprague, or is someone really ready for a motion?
I'm ready for a motion if no one has any questions.
Okay.
It's a very straightforward application with a very minor variance. So yes, I move for approval with no conditions.
Okay. Seconded for Ms. Alderson's motion. Ms. McCluskey, thank you. Your head went up first. All in favor? Unanimous. And thank you, Mr. Sprague. Be well. We're now, I guess, adjourned for lunch. I apologize again for my 15-minute delay. So it's 12:10. Adam, Barb, when do you want to come back?
For 1:30.
1:30, okay. And with sound check at 1:15?
Yes.
We're not even, only have a couple of items, so it won't take that long.
Excellent.
Okay.
Gives us a chance to get outside in this beautiful weather. Thank you.
Exactly. Okay, have a good break, everyone. We'll see you back here at 1:30.
Yep.